And after the game, I asked my crew chief, Rich Garcia, I said, Rich, would you like to go to Corky's place? It's a buddy of mine. He was the best man at our wedding 5 months prior. And we went over to his restaurant. We sat down and we were eating. And just as we were finishing up dinner, one of the employees of the restaurant hollered out that two of the waitresses that had just left the restaurant that night, they were all done, they were off their shift, were being beaten and mugged and robbed on this main thoroughfare in Dallas, Texas, right near Southern Methodist University. Well, when we heard that these two women were being beaten, we got up and we ran off that table and outside in order to help the two women. And there we saw three men doing the beating and the mugging and the robbing of these two women, these two innocent women. And the five of us that came up and off that table, we took off after that group of guys that was around these women, and they had them on the ground. One of them saw us coming, and he hollered out, "Look out. Here they come." And so those three guys scattered. Two of the muggers ran toward a getaway car. It was actually a fourth person. He was the getaway driver. And then one of the muggers got disoriented, and he turned and ran the opposite direction down Mockingbird Lane towards Southern Methodist University. A good friend of mine and myself, we took chase. His name is Terrence Mann. He was on one side of the street, I was on the other. We got about 3/4 of a mile down the road, and we got this guy. And we had him on the ground. We told him not to move. A few of our other friends who were tending to the women, they came to see what was going on with us. And one of them went into a convenience store and he dialed 911. He told the police what had happened, and the police said that they would be there in about 3 to 5 minutes. As we were waiting for the police to arrive, a car pulled up in front of us about 20 feet away. Someone got out of the right front passenger seat, pulled out a silver-barreled .32 caliber pistol, and fired 5 indiscriminate shots at the group of people who were standing over his body. Pow, 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 pow. First bullet, as we call him, T-Man, hit T-Man right here, just under the chin, entered and exited. The second bullet hit him in the right arm, entered and exited. Third bullet hit him in the right thigh. The fourth bullet hit a wall behind us, Mrs. Beard's Bakery, a brick wall. Then the fifth bullet hit me waist high, cut a path through my body, bounced off of my left kidney, came toward my abdomen, struck that, and then went straight back and hit my spinal cord. Then it took a right-hand turn, and it tore some nerves on the way out. Those nerves are called the coda equina, which is Latin for the horse's tail. These are all the nerves at the base of your spine. And instantly I was paralyzed. And I just slowly melted into the ground that night. And I was looking face up, and Jimmy Upton, one of the employees of the restaurant, leaned over me. And I said to him, I said, "Jimmy, if I die tonight, you make sure that you tell Debbie that I love her." And oh, yeah, I forgot my mom and dad, too. You tell them I love them. Then I started going down this laundry list, giving the golf clubs away to my brother Michael and my blue suit to my brother John, and just clearing out all of my closets. And Jimmy leaned over me, and he said, "Stevie," in his perfect Texas English, he said, "Stevie, there ain't no dying going on here tonight." Well, I then asked him to reach behind me because it felt like there was this big rock at the base of my spine. And Jimmy reached back there and came out, and there was nothing but a little blood on his hand. He said, "Stevie, there's nothing back there." I said, "Jimmy, you can't miss it. It's this big, big rock. It's sitting right in the small of my back, please." And he went back there again to appease me, but he knew there was no rock. What it was my spine, and it was swelling. Well, the emergency medical team arrived. They stabilized me, got me into an ambulance, and rushed me to Parkland Hospital. And Parkland Hospital, for you history buffs, is the hospital where they took President Kennedy when he was shot. It's one of the top trauma hospitals in the country. And when I got there, the doctors had determined that I needed to go in for exploratory surgery to see what kind of damage there was. And there was a phone call made to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, which was very, very smart on behalf of my friend and my crew chief, Rich. And they called my father-in-law and told him what had happened. And they got dressed, got into a car, and drove over to our house. And just short of our house, they made a phone call and told Debbie to just flip on the lights. They'd be over in a minute. And she really didn't have time to process too much, and they were there at the front door. And my mother-in-law and father-in-law sat my wife down. At 3:43 in the morning, they told her, Stevie has been shot. They believe he's going to live. They just don't know the extent of the damage. And with that, Debbie, who was very, very good in crisis, started to pack and did the fastest pack job you've ever seen her do. And she had no idea how much time she was going to be down in Dallas. She jumped on a plane at 6 in the morning, was there at 7:30, and was at the hospital, Parkland Hospital, at 8 o'clock that morning. And they were just wheeling me out of surgery. And I have a term of endearment for her. I call her Buckwheat, because she's always saying, "Otay, Otay, Otay," all the time, just like Buckwheat. And I looked at her and I said, "Hi, Buckwheat." And she said, right then and there, I knew that we were going to be okay. But she just couldn't resist. And she leaned over. 5.5 years I dated you. You wanted me to see everything there was in baseball. The travel, the bad hours, the tough work, the people on you all the time, the cussing at home plate that you don't hear, that I hear when I'm sitting back there. All of that. But you never said anything about getting shot. That was not part of the deal. I said, honey, that was the fine print. You've got to look at the bottom for the fine print. Now, 2 days later, a neurosurgeon came to my hospital room. And just outside the door stood Debbie, my brother Jim, and a good friend, Ray. And the neurosurgeon looked at the three of them and very clinically told them, while looking at Debbie, your husband will never walk again. He will never walk again. Well, Debbie, her knees buckled, and my brother and my friend caught her as she was going down. My brother kind of showed the Palermo temperament a little bit. He pointed at that doctor and he said, that's fine. You tell us he's not going to walk again. Now you go in there and you go tell him he's not going to walk again. Go tell him that he won't walk again. And the doctor, this neurosurgeon, he kind of got a feeling for the hostility that might be there when he came into my room. He stood at the base of my bed and fidgeting. He said, Steve, we've gone through CAT scans and x-rays and MRIs, and we did the exploratory surgery, and we don't feel, but then again, with this type of an injury, nothing is ever 100%, but we don't think that you're ever going to walk again. And I looked this doctor in the eye and I said, Doc, I appreciate it. It's a medical opinion. It's based on a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, a lot of experience. But I'm going to prove you wrong. He said, well, I hope you do. But he really didn't mean it. There was no conviction in his voice. Well, we started out on this long trail of physical rehabilitation. And for 4.5 years, in a pool, on a mat, on the ground, sometimes falling, sometimes not falling, having to ride or get around in a wheelchair. And just one day, my physical therapist was showing me how to do wheelies to get up and over curbs. And Debbie saw this, and she kind of got everybody together. And she said, okay, let's stop the fun and games with the wheelies and all that stuff, even though there is a purpose for that. Let's teach him how to walk. And if he can't walk, he'll be the best wheelchair patient you have ever had. That started us out in the right direction. And with the help of these physical therapists, they are little terrorists, believe me. But they do it, and they do it with passion, only to get you well. And then they did a hell of a job with me. And 4.5 years later, I was able to walk. It took a long time. It took a great support system, a terrific wife, a loving family who was there, and great friends. And the thing that bothered me more than anything else was this doctor who said I was never going to walk again. He never gave me a chance. Never gave me a chance to succeed. Never. I could try and fail, but he was never going to give me that chance. Well, a few years after I started to walk, I sent this doctor my wheelchair, and I told him to stick it somewhere in his office. And I have since sent him the matching set to this. Hopefully I will send this in the mail pretty soon. He just hates when that UPS guy shows up at his office. He knows any big package has got to be from me. Has to be. And it was to send him a message for his future patients, not to defeat them,